Morning, everyone. We'll call the Board of Commissioners meeting for September 10th, 2019 to order. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll continue with the agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda this morning.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Public Works, Ryan, would you?
Good morning, Ryan.
Morning, Ryan.
How are we today?
Wonderful.
Good. Quit raining, the sun's gonna come out.
It's going to be 84
Good news for
degrees.
you. Maybe I won't. Well, we've got a fairly busy agenda this morning. A lot of items kind of coming to fruition. The first order of business on the board agenda is consideration of the intent to cost participate agreement for County State Highway 60 Stadium Road and Pole Road Roundabout. The agreement defines the agency responsibilities between the City of Mankato and Blue Earth County. This will be a City of Mankato-led project because they are receiving federal STP funds to cover a large portion of the project. The STP funds, they do have some additional work included on Pole Road that they plan to do. So it's a little skewed when you look at the STP, but $795,000 in the agreement is STP funds. $143,552.41 for county funds estimated, and city funds estimated at $338,662. So fairly low cost way to get a roundabout completed at a very congested, very busy intersection that we get numerous complaints about. And then, as you are aware, we will bring forward a cooperative construction agreement once the engineer's estimated construction costs are defined in more detail for the board approval and for council approval.
Okay. Have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I want to reiterate my concern with safety for
Pedestrians.
pedestrians.
Yep.
If I can't see that when it comes to approving this, I will be voting against it. I know
What
this is
specific?
basically this to make sure we have a good pedestrian crossing, because we have a lot of special needs people coming from
from MRCI's workforce.
and roundabouts are confusing.
Yep.
And that would be a really problem. So I need to see a good pedestrian crossing that crosses Stadium Road.
Yep, understood.
Okay. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Are they going to, what's the speed limit going to be? Are they going to look at that again?
The roundabout shouldn't change the segment speed limit.
I didn't know if they were going to change some of the segments.
No, obviously the entry advisory signs are placed for the vehicles to slow down as they enter into the roundabout.
Yeah.
I do have the speed limit summary. I just wrapped that up yesterday
Okay.
and intend to get that out to you here today, if not tomorrow.
Because
So,
I know I've gotten some questions on it. That's,
yeah, so on all of the MAPO segments, we did complete that study, and I was just putting a little bit of a cursory, a little bit of a synapse on the front of it because it can be a little bit confusing, I believe, the way that it was written, so I wanted to try to better detail it for how you guys will be looking at it. So I hope to get that out to you here in the next day.
sounds good.
Absolutely.
I know I've gotten some questions on the speed limit
Yes,
on
and
that
there's
road.
certainly more discussion to be had about
Yep.
that subject.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
All right, second order of business is consideration of bids for State Project 007-592-062. This is the removal and salvage of the historic Kern Bridge. We only received one bid, and that was from Carlton Companies Incorporated. The engineer's estimate was $520,056. The bid came in at $595,660, which was 14.5% over the estimate. Given the fact we only had one bidder and this is highly specialized work, it's not a new bridge. It's picking an existing frail bridge off of the abutments and delicately salvaging it. We checked many references of this company. We've had a conference call with themselves, with their consultant structural engineer that they plan to use for the work. And I guess I'm frustrated that we didn't get bids from our typical bridge contractors, but in the same breath, I kind of understand why we didn't. This is very delicate, very time-consuming work. They're originally from the Blue Earth County area. They've been traveling all around the state doing very high caliber demolition and salvage projects. So with that being said, it's not the typical type of contractor that we're accustomed to seeing on a project like this. But given the fact that nobody else went after it, I think it's worth taking a shot and awarding to Carleton Companies. This project is funded with federal funds and with the statewide town bridge account, so this doesn't have county funds going into the salvage, aside from our time.
Okay. Well,
I'll move approval.
okay. Any discussion? Will this be dismantled or removed in one piece and left in one piece?
We've got to see their actual formal plan yet. I anticipate that they're going to have 2 cranes and they're going to pick the bridge, convey it, and set it on the field to the east side of the river, and then dismantle at that location.
Okay.
Because that's what we had permitted, and it didn't sound like they had an alternative plan developed.
It'll stay together once they lift it up, hopefully.
Yeah.
Where are we going to store it?
Fortunately, we are not. MnDOT is.
Okay.
So that's the good news. Once it goes into the storage containers and is stored at MnDOT, we no longer have any ownership or association with it. It's their bridge to find an alternative owner and then work through the future process of working through the State Historic Preservation Office and trying to find a new home for it.
And we don't own it now, do we?
Correct. It is a
I like
township
that.
bridge, yes.
Okay.
So when you say storage containers, are those just like those?
Like a metal shipping container with an open
Okay,
top
that's
that they're
what
going
I
to
figured.
Oh.
tarp up tightly.
Then they just put a tarp over it, once they put it in.
Since this is a township bridge, do they have to give permission for this? Do they have to give, have they signed off?
Oh, the
on
township is all on board with this. This bridge is the one that hasn't been serving a transportation function for the last 30 years. It's been abandoned.
Okay.
The west side of the right-of-way, the home has actually been built on the old road bed. So the bridge has just become an attractive nuisance and a liability for the township. They've been working for years trying to find a solution. Because it was on the historical register, we were unable to just demolish it and take the risk away. So we were fortunate to find these federal funds to pick and salvage. And it is also very significant historically, being the longest bowstring arch truss in North America.
Oh,
It
wow.
has quite a bit of relevance, so we have to be very careful with it.
So some of us have been out there, but maybe we should go out there for a little party and take a picture and photo for posterity.
And put it at the Historical Society, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
and you maybe said this, Ryan, I just missed it. When was the estimated time to tear it down or move it?
The intent is that it's moved before the end of this year. So
This
the
year, okay.
contractor would begin and work on it this fall.
Might be a good winter project.
That was our thought as well, that really there's no concrete curing or anything like that that's going to be that type of challenge for the contractor. It's really getting the existing southeast abutment and bearing shored up so that doesn't fail. And then build the cofferdam into the river while they're working on their engineering drawings, get the rock fill placed in the river, and then they could do the pick and work on disassembly all winter or into December, January, with some cleanup taking place next spring.
Because I have been on the site, and apparently there's a big ball or something, or cable hanging down that's been there for years.
One of the tie rods was hit by a large tree that was going
that
down
was-
the
okay.
river, yeah, and it broke it. So that was a secondary member. Fortunately,
Yeah.
it's one that doesn't carry the main load. It just kind of holds everything together.
So it'd be good to get it out of there, because I think it does have a threat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the abutment's ready to crumble. It's a limestone block, which we certainly know we've had our troubles with those in the past, the
Right.
limestone block abutments. And they're unzipped and only about 2 inch of bearing left, and it's all pushed out, so.
I'm certainly happy we're removing it and part of that piece of it. I'm glad I don't have to be on board with storing it
Yeah.
for who knows how long, because I think I'd really struggle with that decision.
That was one of my terms of the deal as well. We'll
glad
help,
that's-
we'll gladly lead the project because we have to administer these funds, but we don't want ownership of it in the end.
I think at the end of the day, to have that sit in storage is just
Yeah.
not a very good use of taxpayers' money. But that's
no,
my
no,
opinion and not
yeah.
my decision at this point.
There's been quite a bit of interest in, I think, from other groups, because there may be federal funds tied to it going back up.
Well, that would be wonderful.
That absolutely, and I was concerned with that as well, that I don't want to just salvage this bridge and disassemble it for no purpose. But they do anticipate some of these federal funds will be available for the agency that wants to use it as a trail bridge.
Good.
When you talk about crumbling piers, I have a flashback to when we lifted the Red
Red
Jacket
Jacket beer, yep.
bridge off.
It's about the same
off
thing.
the piers. They lifted that up and one of the limestone things just crumbled.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
It collapsed. They were cutting, I think, the second to last
Yep.
bolt that tied the trestle span. Yeah, and absolutely. And it was raining out too, and,
Yeah.
and it would have been
Yeah.
a great video to have had of the pick. And there were 8 video cameras on the bridge deck of everybody wanting to video it, but it was raining out, so they were all in the cars staying dry, and they cut that second to last bolt, and it just collapsed right into the river.
Wow.
Yeah, fortunately, nobody was hurt, and the contractor was being safe.
Yeah, everybody decided that nothing exciting was going to happen. I was there. It was incredible.
Yes.
So, okay, any other discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
Okay. Item number 3, final contract acceptance for State Aid Project 007-598-032, which is the County Road 111 Bridge 07J33. This was a box culvert project. The final contract amount, final payment amount, I'm sorry, is $11,720. Final contract amount, $234,412.30.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
Thank you. Item number 4, resolution authorizing the County State Aid Highway Municipal Excess Fund balance to the County State Aid Highway Regular Construction Account. This is necessary in order for us to avoid a construction fund balance needs deduction. We've been building up our state aid municipal account funding level over the past couple of years, anticipating projects in Madison Lake, Lake Crystal, and Vernon Center over the next, from 2020 through 2022. Madison Lake and Lake Crystal projects, the cities have really realigned, I think, their priorities for the time being, and are really no longer interested in those projects. The Vernon Center project has slid back and is now looking at 2021 to 2022. So as we continue to have that fund balance build up annually, if we go past more than 2 years of our fund balance or a maximum capped amount, that will effectively result in a needs deduction for us. So we can pass this resolution, transfer it to County State Aid Highway Regular, and avoid that deduction. We are anticipating adding a project in Good Thunder next year for about 4 blocks of our County State Aid Highway 1 at the request of the city, and we looks like we should be able to cash roll that with the CASA Municipal, even with this needs balance deduction. Or I'm sorry, with this fund transfer. So I would request approval of that resolution.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
All right. Item number 5 is a resolution authorizing the execution of the Duck Lake Fishing Pier Cooperative Agreement. A little bit about the agreement, that's the next agenda item, but as this package as a whole, Blue Earth County has a funding obligation in the agreement of $16,758.83. That's the amount that the Duck Lake Association has privately raised. We have a separate cooperative agreement signed and executed with the Duck Lake Association that obligates them to that cost in addition to the cost for a paved parking lot and a paved walkway trail to the fishing pier, which they've received donations from Holtmeyer Construction and Nielsen Blacktop for that work. So they've done a fantastic job of raising these funds. The county has to be the fiscal agent. but we have an agreement with them obligating them to paying the county for the funds that they've raised towards this project that they've championed. So I would request approval of the attached resolution.
So moved.
So move. Second?
Any discussion?
I think this is a great public-private partnership.
Yes,
Yes.
very
Nice
much.
They've
job.
done a fantastic job of raising funds, and I think that's really helped bring it to the top of the list
Yep.
for the Department of Natural Resources.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
was the DNR going to fund a little more of it than we
Yeah,
anticipated?
the
from
total
beginning?
project was over $30,000, so the DNR will still have $14,000 and change into the fishing pier itself. And then the agency is always responsible for the parking lot and walkway.
And so of that 16,000 that they're going to donate, is that part of that? Or?
Towards the fishing pier.
Yeah.
The walkway and parking lot are on top of
on
that.
top of it,
So
yeah.
they've raised, closer to $30,000.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
they've done a good job out there.
Yes, they have.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right. The next order of business, number 6, is the actual cooperative agreement that has all of the terms that we've discussed. I would request approval of that agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
No discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. Next order of business is the bids that were received for the Daly Park restroom project. We had originally budgeted in the county parks budget $100,000 for this project. Plus, we were anticipating using about $40,000 from the remaining parks general improvements budget. The intent was to construct a concrete block structure similar to the restroom facilities that were in areas 3 and 4 of Daly Park. Benefit of those being lower maintenance and obviously much stronger structures. While they're not FEMA-rated storm shelters, they would certainly serve as a much better alternative than nothing, or the RV campers that are out there in the event of a storm. The bid included the general contractor carrying the liability, builder's insurance, and bonding costs for the project. But again, with the project budget being where it was at this time, building costs are astronomical. I would recommend rejection of the bids and perhaps suggest that county staff will continue to look at alternative construction methods and/or facility sizing, if that's something we want to continue moving forward with.
Do you need a motion for that, or
I'm-
to
Yeah, we have to
cancel?
reject.
To reject the bids, I
Reject.
believe so.
Reject the bid.
Yes.
Bid.
I would make a motion to reject the bids.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Cost is going up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just struggle to see the benefit of, for a restroom facility in that area. It'd be a very nice amenity, and we'll continue to look and see if we general contract it ourselves and perhaps go to a stick frame structure. Whether we can achieve it for those funds, I guess the question and further discussions maybe needed with respect to when that happens. If it has to be completed this calendar year, that may be challenging. So.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just a comment, we do have 2 other structures there.
Yes, back in
Yeah.
the more heavily used campground area. This was out front, next to the pavilion and across from where we had just made our electrical upgrades.
Yep.
So we anticipate that'll be used quite a bit more because there's some beautiful campsites there right next
Yeah.
to the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Okay, the last action item in the agenda, number 8, is approval of the annual report of the Parks Department. A lot of information in here with respect to camping reservations, revenue generation, caretaker payments, sales within the parks individually. But as a bit of a recap, there were a total of 7,159 mobile and tent camping nights in the 2018 season. That was a decrease of 58 over the previous year. However, the previous year was, I believe, one of our record years. So it was, we were still doing very well. The revenue collected at Bray Park, Daly Park, Duck Lake, Rapidan, and Williams Nature Center totaled $182,258.37. Which was a decrease of about $8,000, which was due to slight decrease again in the camping reservations. Boat rentals and wood bundles sold as well were slightly down. The RT Vision $3 reservation fee that was approved in 2017 generated $7,279 to fund the reservation software upgrade implementation, which was scheduled for early 2019. The camping system still continues to prove very useful. There were 2,609 reservations made online last year through that software. Shelter reservations system at Williams Nature Center, Bray Park, Daly Park, Rapidan Dam Park, and Duck Lake generated 152 shelter reservations, 25 of which were from nonprofit groups. Boat rentals totaled almost 2,100 hours, and caretakers sold over 2,156 bundles of wood in 2018.
Wow.
Park system improvements included the electrical and water upgrades to the Daly Park Area 4 camping area. Red Jacket Valley Park received the remainder of the topsoil fill and was seeded with native prairie grasses. The Parks Department purchased the 3.9 acres of river upland adjacent to the Rapidan Dam County Park so that we were able to guarantee river access for the park patrons, and purchasing of new maintenance equipment. I'm more than happy to answer more questions, but I don't want to drone on about our report.
Did the purchase of that land at Rapidan take away the need for the fishing easement that we had talked about with
We're still
the Dish family at one time?
we are still working with the DNR towards that. The original agreement, if I remember correctly, was that the DNR was going to they were going to do the paperwork and pay for half of the easement, and we would pay for the other half of the easement.
Seemed like it's a cost of about $5,000 for
Yes,
us and the
that is a
DNR.
good point, though. I'll make a note to follow up with that because it's been fairly quiet.
Yeah. So, okay. Any other questions on the report?
It's always interesting to me to see where people come from to camp there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No. So, okay. So, motion to approve?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second?
Any other discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
And just some informational items. Construction projects update, County State Aid Highway 1, they reinforced soil slopes. The last wall has been completed, so the contractor's moving on to the final grading work on the contract. They're constructing the remaining storm sewer and the road course south of RSS number 1, so the project's really starting to take shape now that they can travel throughout the site entirely without having that pinch point. CSAH 14 from Minnesota Highway 30 to CSAH 4. The contractor has the project grading roughed in. The pavement has been full depth reclaimed. They're actually capping with the remaining gravel and should be paving in the near future. And they're also finished grading the ditches and inslope, so that's really coming together nicely. 17 and Hafner Roundabout. Project should be open late this week, barring any more rain. I knew you'd ask. So.
DTOE was talking about it this morning. They said
we
it
were-
looks like you can drive on it.
Yeah, we've had plenty of people thinking the same thing, and in fact, it's been a problem and it always is, keeping people out of the busy spots
yeah.
once it's paved.
Yeah.
There is some obviously remaining work that has to be completed, and for our employees and the contractor safety, we still need to complete the sodding, light poles, signage, and striping, and then some miscellaneous cleanup. But we're hoping that if the weather stays good, we should be able to open probably Friday or Saturday this week. So we're looking forward to putting that one behind us. Absolutely.
Good to get that done with.
We did talk about the Luray Township box culvert project. That work has been completed. Rapidan Dam left abutment repairs. The work is underway. Some of the preliminary grouting has been completed. We anticipate more form work and concrete coming in sooner than later. The Kern Bridge will be moving forward now. We'll anticipate that we'll be approving shop drawings from their consultant engineers, and they'll be probably mobilizing in to stabilize again that southeast abutment and bearing point fairly soon. And the St. Clair, the new shop, is coming along very nicely. Kip, have you been out there lately?
Yep, I was out there about a week ago. Walls were up.
Yeah, that's losing I had pictures.
I was there when the concrete was poured and the building wasn't even there yet, so I was a little worried.
Yeah.
The building must have showed up right after that, so.
Yeah. Here's some photos for the board.
Is it like a prefab?
No,
It's
just
a
steel.
engineered steel building. So it's coming along very nicely. The contractor appears to be on schedule, which is always good to hear. We're anticipating mid-October completion of the project as a whole.
Wow.
So it's really,
That's coming
it looks
along.
like,
That's moving right along.
Yeah.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
So what's the cost?
That project was a little over $700,000.
Okay.
And that's a 5,000 square foot facility with all new, it'll be entirely lined on the interior with steel panel, insulation, everything brought up to code and OSHA standards.
It's gonna be great for the employees,
Absolutely.
great for the county, because we're gonna be able to have the storage there and the equipment there to fix.
The additional doors will be tremendous too. You know, our previous shop just had one door centered on the building, so it was a little bit of jockeying to get in and out of there. This one will have the door for each piece of equipment and then a smaller door on the back for either the tractor backhoe or the pickup trucks. So, yeah, much better layout.
Better floor drains for washing the equipment, taking care of it.
Better humidity control as well, which has been one of our big challenges in those.
Good.
Okay, and then just a couple of planning project updates. CASA 10 from the Blue Earth River to County State Highway 1. The right-of-way acquisition is coming along well. We should be ready for winter or early spring bid letting if it keeps going as according to plan. County State Highway 27 from 17 to 2. Project design 60% plans should be submitted this week for county review. Wetland delineations and archaeological surveys have been completed. Now to have them mitigated and obviously permitted, and we should begin right-of-way work in the coming months. We are also working with our project partners of the state of Minnesota, Department of Transportation, and the city of Mankato for the County State Highway 57 and Riverfront Drive roundabout interchange project at US Highway 14. We are working with the project management team for approval through the numerous MnDOT specialty offices and departments that require their approval on the preliminary layout. And so once that's approved, then we can move into the actual detailed design for that project.
So are you saying at midnight, one door is not the only door?
No comment. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Any other questions for Ryan?
Thanks, Ryan.
I don't think I have any.
That was
Thank
great.
you, Ryan.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you for your report.
Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Do you want those
Okay.
pictures?
We'll move on to the county attorney update.
Morning, Pat.
Morning. Thank you,
Morning.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners. As usual, the information provided in the monthly report speaks for itself. If you have any questions, more than happy to answer them. I know that numbers are up in the commitment area and child protection area, and I've addressed that a little bit before. One matter that I did want to discuss with you, and I had sent you each an email this morning with the information on the link we have with Community Corrections, added to the truancy intervention program, where we have met with all the school districts in the county and have now implemented a student attendance review team, wherein after the process, essentially in the macro view, after 3 unexcused absences, there's an individual from our office that will go out to each of these schools as needed and speak with the student and or parents regarding the consequences of truancy. And that is not an individualized meeting, that's a group meeting. And then after 7 absences, instead of going directly into court, we're trying to hold these individuals accountable in some other way. And that's with the assistance of probation. We've got a student attendance review contract that we have them sign. We talk to the parents and students individually and try to get them to understand that it's important to stay in school. Just for an example, high school dropouts are 8 times more likely to end up in the criminal justice system. Within that, we have got Judge Greg Anderson has agreed to deal with all the truancy cases, so we have some consistency there. So starting in late October, early November, every other Tuesday, he has agreed to set aside time on his calendar, because all the efforts between the school district, corrections, our office, and the entire system, by the time that they get into court, they've had at least 3 bites at the apple, and we have done what we can to make sure that they understand that it's important to stay in school. And if you have any questions, concerns, or comments about that or anything else, as usual, I'm more than happy to answer them if I'm able.
Yeah. Any questions for Pat?
Mr. Chair, I read through it, and some of the things that are unacceptable absences are like babysitting.
Yes.
Sometimes it's because the parents have a child at home that the older child has to stay with, so I'm a little nervous about that.
Well, and that's, we've dealt with those issues in the past. And matter of fact, I was less than 2 weeks ago, I was dealing with that exact issue when one of the schools called and had a question relating to that. And the school resource officer was sent out to do a welfare check, because if that child is not in school, and if that child is sitting at home, and if the parent calls and excuses that child from being in school, and they're at home babysitting because that's the only alternative, well, that's a problem. And, that might turn into a child protection issue. So, and I just simply told them, have the school resource officer go do a welfare check and find out exactly, is that kid sick, or is that child, as they hunch have it, that is again sitting at home babysitting. And there's numerous times that, not all the time, but there's numerous times that there's issues with the parents that need to be addressed as well. And so that's the educational component of making sure that the parents understand that this is an important thing for the kids to get an education.
I understand the importance. I worry about the child being penalized as opposed to...
Well, and this is not a process to penalize the child at all. This is to try to find out what the issues are, address those issues, because we can many times address those issues, especially with the involvement of corrections. We can address those issues without going into court, because we're going to address those issues when we get into court. And a lot of times, if we can address those issues sooner, without judicial intervention, because it's going to be the same process, it's the end result. They're going to do the same thing anyway.
Yeah.
So, and we never want to punish the kids, we simply want them to go to school.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. I just want to make sure that the kids aren't penalized.
Yep.
And if the earlier we get children on the right path, the better off we are.
Very true.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Just a follow-up to that conversation. So if we were in there checking that out, would we maybe bring in some other human services departments? I mean, if there's a daycare issue, or do we just stop at that part?
No, it just depends. We're going to follow the course and figure out and identify what the true problem is and address that issue. And if it's something that should be addressed within the system, whether that's through human services involvement, corrections involvement, because in its purest form, truancy is a child in need of protection or services. So it just depends on where, kind of the flow chart. We're going to say if then here, and if this is the situation, then we're going to turn here. Anytime that we go out to have a truancy intervention program meeting, we're making sure that human services is notified, just so they're aware of the fact, because they may already have involvements with these families that we don't even know about, because nothing's been referred to our office on their end. So we may not know that they're having services. They may also have already have somebody assigned to that family already. It's just another communication piece to try to make sure that we can provide as many wraparound services as we can.
Yeah, and that wraparound service, that word right there is what I like to hear. That all the services that the county can provide for an individual are being accessed.
And we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, good.
Let me go back to sharing information throughout the county. Can we do that, or are there still privacy issues where we can't?
There's privacy issues. It's easier for corrections to share information with schools, and corrections can share information with law enforcement. Our office can share information with law enforcement. We're not readily available under data practices to be able to share some information with schools, nor are schools able to share information with us. So that's why we want to provide the information in the appropriate circumstances, whether it's to human services, community corrections, or law enforcement, so that information does get shared with the schools. And data practices, that's all I'm
Yeah,
going to say.
data practices drives me crazy sometimes,
Yes,
because
right.
when there's a need and we can't share.
Right, and no, we do share, and we want to make sure, it's just like if there's on the flip side to that would be in the juvenile court process, we make sure that law enforcement knows so they can share with the school if there's an issue that occurred on school property, if there's an issue with students that they need to be aware of. So we make sure to do the best that we can to share that information where appropriate.
Mr. Chair?
Anything else?
I'm really glad there's going to be some consistency with the judge, et cetera. I think that makes a difference.
That makes a huge difference. And I was having, I have a monthly meeting with the judges, and the last meeting was a little over a week ago. And we talk about the crossover between the systems. And the judges see these, we see these, and it's just if we can get more consistency, whether it's in the truancy process, whether it's in the child protection process, whether it's in the juvenile court process, or even the family civil law and divorces. The judges see the same kids involved. So if we can have, and scheduling is always a very difficult task, but the judges do their best, and we've started the conversation to see if there's any way that let's revisit this issue to see if there's any way that we can assign one judge, for example, to one person or one family, like we do with our specialty courts, with adult drug court, veterans court, family dependency treatment court, because that consistency, even within our office, I know probation assigns an agent to the individual and they kind of stick with them for whatever length of time necessary. In our office, we try to make sure that we can assign that individual or that family to one prosecuting attorney or one attorney.
It's good.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Pat?
On the juvenile felony case filings,
Yes.
I see just a huge increase with
Why
the
is it?
person, just like double.
There has been. It's
What's going on there?
if
What kind of the cases, what's?
we have in some areas, some of our numbers have been going down, and as a national trend, the number of person crimes is actually going down, but the serious person crimes are going up. And we're seeing that trend as well, and within the school districts and within the community, not necessarily, the school districts, I want to keep them out of that. But within the community, we're seeing an increase in the more in the felony caseload, because it doesn't take much when we had probably 60 felonies last year in the juvenile caseload. And when you start seeing an increase in that, it's like recently one of the instances that hit the media, we've got 3 juveniles involved in a case. And when you get those serious cases involved, that's going to increase exponentially.
Are we talking
percentage-wise.
assaults?
Yep,
thefts,
assaults, robberies.
robberies?
Yep, but we're seeing more of the person crimes and more of the serious person crimes involved overall and just generally. So. Okay.
Can I just follow up
go
on
ahead.
that? So you're saying you see more like 3 people beating up on somebody, and so that makes it.
No, I don't want to
Okay,
convey
maybe I
that message. It's just that when you have 3 people involved like that in one serious incident,
Yep.
usually we get the onesie, twosies, whatever,
Yep.
but you get those cases where it's going to kind of skew things. And I'm not saying that, no, we're getting more of the multiple individuals. It's just that we're seeing more and more of the person crimes in the juvenile area, and that's kind of the national trend. So we're not really out of whack in that respect as well.
Are we seeing the influence of gangs in this, or is that not an issue?
It really hasn't been an issue. I haven't seen a huge influx or increase by any way, shape, or form in gang activity. I mean, it's still kind of ancillary to many different things, but not in the juvenile area. We really haven't seen, because I asked that specific question just yesterday in a couple of different areas to a couple of different officers, and they're not really seeing anything, so to speak, of in the juvenile areas.
That's encouraging.
Right, and it is. And then, in the adult side and in the controlled substance crimes, we're still seeing that with the drug task force here and there.
Good. Anything else for Pat? Thank you for your report.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
We'll move on to administrative services.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first item is the county board minutes for August 20th.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved.
Next would be the bills for the 3 weeks indicated.
I'll move the bills.
Second?
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bills are approved.
Mr. Chair, can I just make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Waste Management's in here and the Ponderosa's in the bills for this time, but I really like that we're taking paper out at the Ponderosa for free for people
For shredding.
shredding. I think that's a really good thing. It's a nice service.
I've heard good things about the electronics recycling at a reduced price, too.
Yep,
I think that's a wonderful service.
I do too.
I
Just
took-
wanted to mention that.
Yeah. I took a load of stuff out there the other day, and it worked. They were busy, but it worked great.
Yeah, I sent Jack out there the other day.
Okay. So,
Well then, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 5 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. We just have informational items for the board today. We have filled a library clerk on call position, and we had a number of resignations, one being a social worker in our mental health unit, as well as a financial assistance case aide in human services and a clerical specialist 2 in our MTRAC program within human services, and then lastly a custody officer. And so we have initiated recruitment to refill all of those positions going forward. So
very good.
be
Any
happy to
questions
answer
on
any
that?
questions.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair.
Just wanted to make a point that I saw the ad on TV for recruitment for custody officers for Blue Earth County. I thought they, I've seen all the ads and I think they're very well made.
Yeah.
And kudos to those that put that together.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
I
was-
saw that too. That was-
It was really nice that staff stepped forward and were willing to participate in those videos. You'll see more at the work session here coming up, because I think what was sent out were just some snippets for the TV spots, but there's also some larger recruitment videos that we'll be sharing.
Yeah, looks good.
Good. Any other thoughts on that?
I was just going to comment on the same thing.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay.
All right, item number 6 in your packet then is the Veteran Service Officer Grant. Blue Earth County has again been awarded an operational enhancement grant from the state of Minnesota. This is a grant that the department is eligible for every year. The amount of the grant continues to be $12,500, runs on the state fiscal year, and so we're recommending acceptance of the grant agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Kudos for Mike to
Yeah.
put this together.
Great. Yes.
It's
Okay.
been very helpful. I mean, it really does enhance operations, and so every year that we get that grant, it gets put to use.
Anything we can do to help our veterans out, the better.
Absolutely.
I have a question,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair. I know the county funds the Veterans Service Office pretty much all of it, or is there federal money and state money outside of this
They-
going into it?
The only outside money is this operations grant.
That's what I thought. So, I mean, I think it's important. I don't think most people realize
Yeah.
that, and it's funded by property taxes.
There has been some discussion at the federal level about some federal money going to local offices. Mike has been very active in
Yep.
lobbying in favor of that. Whether we'll see any of that or not, it's yet to be seen.
Yeah. I know Mike is really active nationally, and I think that's
Yeah.
really a positive thing for this county and for veterans across this nation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Positive.
Okay.
All right, item number 7 then in the packet is a resolution granting authority to the sheriff to sign some documents related to the Office of Traffic Safety. There are grants like the excuse me, the Towards Zero Death and DWI officer grants. And so this resolution has been passed by the board in the past, kind of authorizing the sheriff the ability to sign those agreements just to keep things moving in those grant areas.
I'll move the resolution.
Is there a second?
It's
Second.
Any discussion?
always good.
Okay, if there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is approved.
Item number 8 in your packet then is a resolution setting a hearing date for County Ditch 5, a repair hearing. Blue Earth County Ditch 5's watershed is located in Meadow Township as well as Danville Township. It's a 10,430 acre watershed. It's primarily drained by an open ditch with a little bit of tile. We have received a petition for repair for this system, and so we're recommending that a hearing date be set for October 8th at 9 a.m. here in the county boardroom.
I'll move rule.
Is there a second?
So moved.
Any discussions? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 9 in your packet is the financial status report for August 31st. You'll see that our total revenues so far are just under $60 million with expenses at slightly over $63 million. Again, not surprising given the timing of our local property tax revenues. We'll see that improve in the next couple of months. Overall, I think we're tracking well in terms of how things were budgeted. We are a little bit behind on the contracts and fees and the expenditures area, but with the recent nicer weather, I think our road projects will show up a little more in the next report. So we'll see some of those bills starting to come through. It's always concerning to me up on the revenue side to see state and federal revenues lagging behind the same amount as last year, and by quite a bit this particular time. I suspect some of that is the turnback funds that we did receive last year in the Public Works Department, so that kind of skews the 2018 numbers. Overall, though, I would say things are tracking, like I say, well compared to our budget. We're a little bit behind, but that's not unusual as we see those road projects wrap up in the early fall and we see those bills coming in. In terms of the enterprise fund, which is, again is the Ponderosa, you'll see that our revenues are a little bit ahead of our expenses there. That's to be expected. We have some large capital items included there, but when we're not actively building a cell, that makes quite a bit of difference in this budget. So it's looking well in that regard. In terms of the cash and investment balances then, you'll see our total county funds are at about 116 million. Again, we continue to be in a strong position here. I want to keep pointing out the law library still is running a bit of a deficit, and so that is an item that I know we've had discussions on and is being attended to. And
Are we gaining any ground on that, or are we staying pretty?
actually, I think we're still losing a little bit, unfortunately.
We have another meeting coming up here. I think I'll bring that information to the board there and see.
I would appreciate it.
I think it's as simple as just raising our law library fee again. We've raised it once, but I think we're still below the state average.
Yeah, I think the cost of the materials continues
Yeah.
to go up at a little faster pace than the revenues have, and so
Okay.
continue to see a slide there.
Chair.
Go ahead.
So in that, are we putting stuff on the internet? Are we pulling stuff? Are we actually buying the books?
We're almost exclusively using digital and internet services.
Okay.
We've cut way back on the printed material.
Okay.
There are some things that the judges request that we keep on hand that are printed material, but for the most part, the public are is using the internet and other digital formats. So,
And I'm assuming there's an annual fee as opposed to a fee every time you use it?
yes, yes.
They probably just keep raising. They keep raising that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
that's going up, yeah.
Well, and there was a time we had such a surplus that we felt that we had to cut it back. And I think it's just time to go back to the fee that we used to have, so. Okay, anything else?
No, and I certainly could answer any questions if there are any on the financial status report, but that's all I have.
Okay. Very good. Let's move on to commissioners' reports on committees. Anybody volunteer to start?
Got kind of a short one.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
After our last board meeting, I was on a conference call with our State Emergency Communication Board. Not a whole lot of new activity going on right there at this point, but they're just trying to keep us review of what's going on coming up this next season. I was at the Duck Lake Association meeting that we just got a little bit of report on the dock, which is very exciting. They always have a good turnout there. There's probably about 70, 80 people there this year, which is a little smaller turnout. But we were there and had a nice conversation with the people. Had a public informational meeting on JD 33, a very small ditch system with only about 4 or 5 landowners at the meeting, but again, a very expensive project. So we have to decide what we're going to do with that, whether we should do some improvements, some repairs. But again, like I said, it's a big cost and just a very small amount of landowners to help pay for it. Had a planning and zoning workshop talking about the solar gardens and the solar farms. I thought we had a good discussion in the 90 minutes we had, or approximately 90 minutes. Look forward to having some more discussion after the staff tries to put some more material together. I've been getting several calls from constituents in the area and talking with staff about some different ideas and some other items. And I did notice that the one out by Wildwood Park was mowed. So they got that dealt with. It was
Must have
just
got
getting
the
to be,
idea.
it was getting late, and I haven't seen how well it looks, but it did look like the other night when I drove by that it was, I could see the solar panels anyways at this point. So we needed to have some discussion on how we deal with that, because I think to take 2 months to get something mowed is just unacceptable when the weeds are getting that high. So then we had our planning and zoning meeting that evening, or I did, and we had 2 items on the agenda. One was a expansion of a feedlot, went really well, and then one was a rezone down in the Hillier area. We had good discussion. I was the only one that supported not denying it. I think there's some opportunities there for the concerned residents around the area to put some conditions on this operation, but nobody was interested in talking about that. So we will be seeing that at the end of the month. And I'm going to be meeting with some more of the landowners they just wanted me to come out there. I think it's a moot point at this point. They recommended denial, and it was a 6-1 vote to deny it. So I just thought I'd do my due diligence and follow up on that.
I met with several of them last night.
Oh, you did? Okay. And there were probably all several that were there.
Yeah, they all said that they had been at the
Yep.
meeting.
So, and then we had a ledge call for my statewide emergency communication legislative meeting that I'm the chair of. Not a whole lot new going on there. Had a update with a few programs we got going on. They got moved into some new space, so they're excited about that. Then last Thursday evening, I was at the SWCD meeting, and they were giving us an update on the programs they have going on. They're wrapping up some of their projects and just working on some new stuff coming up this fall. And then yesterday I had my MRCI executive meeting, and not a whole lot going on there. We're talking about buildings. Brian had a good report as far as MRCI goes. We are trying to get everybody in the inside the buildings out working in the community, so that's working really well. But with that, our buildings don't have as much a need for them. So in the next few years, we'll be talking about how we deal with our space that we're not using. We have all kinds of space that we're trying to rent, but we're not able to rent it. So we'll be having a lot of discussion about the facilities over the next 12 months to 18 months, and talking about how we try to cut our costs and keep our programs going the most efficient as we can. And that brings me to today, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Kip. Colleen?
Mine's a little lighter. After the last board meeting, Ryan took me out on County Road 1. which was a great trip. I didn't know if we were going to get it all the way through because it had rained between our board meeting and getting on there. So it was a little slippery going up some of the dirt, but it was a fascinating trip. And it was really helpful for him to explain a lot of the process for me. So it was great fun. Actually, on the 23rd, I had a meeting with Bukata Hayes from the Diversity Council on the Covenant Project, where we're looking at racial prejudice and deeds with Blue Earth County. It's just starting to kind of come together, kind of. It's going to take some time, but we've got some partners. Historical Society's real interested, so is MSU. So I think we've got some opportunities there. There'll be a lot more meetings before we get there, but it's a start. We've sent the deeds, about 500 from each decade, from 1910 to 1960, up to the University of Minnesota, and they're going through to see how many they think we'll have. You know, it's kind of a quick look at it. So they're about halfway through, so we'll have more information later. The 27th was the Night to Unite in Mankato. So I was at Highland and Lincoln Park. Great turnouts, and both of them always have music, so it's kind of fun just to watch the neighbors and the different music. At Highland we had, you know, a string quartet. At Lincoln Park they had a rocker. So I mean, lots of fun. On the 4th of September, Vance and I were at A Million Cups. The man who did the presentation was talking about a different type of turbine. So kind of
Wind turbine.
Wind turbine, yeah. I guess I should have said wind, huh? So it'll be interesting to see. He's going to do a pilot at Good Counsel and somewhere else. I don't remember the other place. Department heads after that.
City of Mankato, I thought it was something.
Yeah, but I can't remember what it was. And then we had the meeting with the Planning Commission on solar. On the 5th, I had a meeting with Mary Ann Bowe, her maiden name is Datsun, about compassionate communities. We talked about that early on. How do you bring a community together? It's a whole community response on loss, isolation, grief, and death. One of the examples is kids who have parents incarcerated. You know, how does the community help with that? So it's a public health approach, and in community development, also bringing in, you know, Mayo Clinic and some of those other organizations. This will be the first pilot in the United States. So I think we have some great opportunities. I'm going to try and get an appointment with Commissioner of Health. And then I'm going to talk to Josh and Phil about how does that intersect. So I think it's some great opportunities, and I think it's a really good project.
Yep.
That's all I have, sir.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Vance?
All right, well, our last board meeting was the 20th, and on the 21st, I had a Transportation Alliance legislative meeting. We're working on what kind of funding for transportation we can do. Not so much this year, it's a bonding year this year, but we're actually looking more towards 21 and seeing what kind of what would be accepted by the House and Senate.
Yep.
27th, I had Airport Commission, and then that evening was Night to Unite. I happened to, instead of sitting at one place, I went to 8.
Oh,
So
you went to 8.
I
Wow.
went to 8 different House places.
Wow.
And
just did 2.
on the 28th, I went to the State Fair, and it's always enjoyable for me to go into the 4-H building and go into see the animals and see everything that Blue Earth County has to contribute towards the State Fair, and it's got a lot. It's nice to see the ribbons that they get, and that's always positive for me. The old 4-H'er in me comes back, you know, from when I was a kid. 29th, I had a Blue Earth Nicollet County Safe Roads meeting. On September 4th, again, 1 million cups. It's always enjoyable to see the entrepreneurs that are trying to make their way. One thing that really hit me, and I, you don't think about it, but entrepreneurs are really dependent on a good healthcare system.
Sure.
And you're finding that we're getting less and less people that are actually getting into being entrepreneurs because they can't afford it. And unless the United States gets something straightened out, and us here in Minnesota get something straightened out with our healthcare system so we can make it affordable, we're going to see less and less people that are actually getting out there and creating new businesses. So it's something to think about. We had our department head meeting that day, and then the P&Z and board work session. That was very, very informative. It opened a lot of eyes. And then September 5th, I had a South Central Steering Committee for the Towards Zero Death. And that's the end of my chair.
Very good, thank you. Mark?
Okay, let's see, Wednesday, the 21st August, did have Minnesota Valley Council of Governments meeting. That was at, what is it, Sweeney's Bar in Cortland. Anyway, it was just kind of everybody, it's like an update on what each municipality is doing, and it was worthwhile to attend. Jesse Beyer was here for Waseca County. So. Then had Partners for Affordable Housing next day on Thursday meeting, and I don't have the date, but we're going to have a little open house in St. Peter at our Union Street facility. That's what it's called, Union Street. Yeah. And it's not the gospel thing I think of. There's, what is it, in St. Paul? I don't know, but it's Union Street there, and the old motel, but it's on Union Street. That's that'd be coming up. I'll have to get the date again. Then on the 27th, I had our Mankato the Night to Unite, and geez, I must talk more because I only went to half a dozen. And I go from
it's not a contest.
I go west,
not a contest.
West to east. East to west. I go back so I get closer to play. But yeah, that's always a lot of fun. And there were areas that had ones that didn't have.
Very
one
well
before.
could be because I'm all mine are in the city limits, and you have to drive around. So
I have to. Yeah, I
So
cover
you
more
have more
ground.
distance.
Then on the we had the department heads on the 4th, and then the joint session with the planning and zoning that day too on solar zoning, and that was interesting as always. We haven't had for a while, but that was good to have that session. Then I had Mankato Area Planning Organization on the Thursday, and we approved our transportation improvement plans for 2021, 22, 23. And of course, they include things like we're getting federal money, so things like the South 41 bridge, the roundabout, all that going on 83, and then of course the Kern Bridge that was in there, and then our Stoltzman Trail extension was in there, and the US 14 Riverfront coming up, that roundabout, so it was all there. It's always interesting with all that, and then that actually, that basically concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, and relatively short. On the 26th, I had landowner meetings for County Ditch 65 and County Ditch 56. On the 28th, I had a joint extension and AMC meeting in St. Paul, and I too went to the state fair after that, and as part of that meeting, and we had watched a play by many of the 4-H'ers at the 4-H building. We had
Isn't that
supper.
fun?
Yeah, we had supper at the.
They do such a good job too.
Yeah. at the cafeteria. That brought back fond memories. I don't think I'd done that since I was 16 years old, but it was just a wonderful day, and it was great to be at the fair.
Mr. Chair, I saw your picture.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was on Facebook.
Really?
Yep.
I was totally impressed because I was dealing with this injury to my leg, and I thought, oh my goodness, I can't walk around the fair. So they arranged special transportation for me, which was very special. So,
This was sitting in a meeting at the State Fair.
Yeah, good. No, it was a very great day. And of course, on the 4th, we had the department heads and the joint work session for the solar ordinances. Yesterday, I was at the detox meeting in New Ulm. Client days are down significantly. They're projecting to be under 2,500 client days for 2019. That's good for the counties, but it's bad for the detox organization. So we voted to have about a 3% increase in per diems for next year, which will keep us at the level where we need to be. And I had several, Kip mentioned the constituent visits in South Bend Township. I had several of them last night. And I did something this morning that I've never done before. I used True Transit to come to the board
Great.
meeting.
Really?
They picked me up at my house and dropped me off at the courthouse. And it was a very valued ride, had good conversation with the driver, and I plan on doing this again.
Were other people with you then?
No, I was the only one, but it was a good experience.
That's great.
How much was the fee?
$3.
$3.
Yeah, $3 each way. For $6, you can have a round trip. I said, fantastic service.
You can't do that
No.
yourself.
No.
And actually, it's costing more for gas for that vehicle to do that, but it's a wonderful thing for the folks in the county to be able to get rides, and it's great that you tested that out to see how that works.
Simple process. I called the True Transit number last Friday. They arranged pickup time. I got a confirmation call last night, and at quarter to 8 this morning, they were sitting in front of my garage. So it was an excellent experience. Like I said, I plan on doing it again. So, okay, and that's my report. Anything else? Okay, if not, we will motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.